Hello everybody. Today I can find the inverse of a function by switching x and y and solving for y. This is a very commonly asked question on the Algebra 2 Regents. Pretty much every single exam asks it, and it's a very easy question to get right as long as you know what inverse means. A lot of students have misconceptions about what inverse means. It's not the opposite, it's not a flip, it's not a negate. For inverse, you switch x and y. That's what you need to know about the inverse of a function, switch x and y. So it's most commonly asked when it's dealing with equations, and to find the inverse of an equation, we're going to start by switching x and y, and then we're going to solve for y. So let's take a look at our first example. What is the inverse of the function y equals 2x minus 3? Step 1, switch x and y. So instead of y equals, it's going to be x equals, and instead of 2x, it's going to be 2y. We're literally switching x and y. Now that I switched x and y, I'm going to solve for y. Add 3 to both sides. Divide by 2. I get y equals x plus 3 over 2. You might see your answer like that, or you might see your answer broken apart as 1/2 x plus 3 over 2. They're both equivalent. Which one is here? Choice 1. To find the inverse of a function, switch x and y, solve for y. Now, it is good to understand what inverse looks like graphically. So what I did is I graphed both the original, y equals 2x minus 3, and its inverse, y equals x plus 3 over 2. And you can see that on this next page here. This is a graph of the original function and its inverse. And basically what's important to understand about this is that they are reflections of each other over the line y equals x. So, I just tried to make it a color. Let's see if that works out. Hopefully you can see that it's symmetric over the line y equals x. And if you remember from geometry last year, when you reflected over the line y equals x, you had to switch x and y. xy became yx. It's the same thing for inverse. Inverse means switch x and y. So graphically, the inverse will be a reflection over the line y equals x. Number 2, if a function is defined by y equals 3x plus 2, find the inverse. Well, when you see inverse, you need to switch x and y. So we're going to switch x and y. I want you to try that step on your own. I'm literally writing an x where the y was and a y where the x was. Now we solve for y. Why don't you try that step on your own? Now again, you might see it lumped together or you might see it broken apart. I see the answer right here. It's kind of broken apart. X over 3 is 1/3 x minus 2 over 3 is 2 over 3. That's my answer. Number 3, now we haven't talked about the notation for inverse yet. This right here, we read this as f inverse of x. And you've seen the inverse symbol. You saw it in geometry last year when you did inverse sine, inverse cosine, inverse tangent. And you saw it when we did matrix method for those 3x3 systems. We did A inverse B. You saw that little -1 exponent there. So the notation shouldn't be anything new to you. So, because it's asking me for inverse, I know that I need to switch x and y. So I don't see a y, so it might make more sense to replace f of x with a y, since f of x equals is the same thing as y equals. And now I switch x and y. Once I switch x and y, I solve for y. Well, to get y by itself, I have to get rid of the squared, so I take the square root of both sides. Y equals radical x. So, to put it back in the proper notation, f inverse x equals radical x. And that's your answer. Why don't you try number 4 on your own right now? So please pause this video, try number 4 on your own, and then when you're done, please unpause. Okay, it's asking me for the inverse. So to find inverse, we switch x and y. So I'm going to start by writing it as y equals, and then I switch x and y. Once I switch x and y, I solve for y. So I add 7 to both sides. Divide by 5. Now, since it's open response, you have some options. You have y equals x plus 7 over 5. So you can write your answer as f inverse x equals x plus 7 over 5. Or you can break it apart and write it as 1/5 x plus 7/5. Either one is good. That's inverse. Inverse is a very simple conceptual topic. If it asks for inverse, and again, understand this little -1 exponent is inverse, switch x and y, solve for y. Is there anything else here that I feel I need to go over with you? No. Some of the algebra might get a little trickier, but that's really it. So again, if it asks you for the inverse of a function, and again, inverse of a function, that's the inverse of a function. Switch x and y, solve for y. Your classwork/homework is to finish this worksheet. Have a great day.